So our first method, or our first easier method, because obviously we have one from before, our first easier method then is called side, side, side. Anytime you see an S, it stands for side. Should make sense. Okay, so to use this one, we have to prove the three pairs of sides congruent, right? So pair, pair, pair. Here's kind of an example of how it works. Now this is the first example of any of these types of proofs that we've done. So kind of bear with it and follow along, do your best. It'll make more sense as you do more, okay? In this example, we are given that T is the midpoint of PR and T is the midpoint of SQ, and that PS is congruent to QR, okay? Here's what we have. We have T is the midpoint of PR. We can circle the givens, make sure we use them all. The first one's kind of a two-parter because T is the midpoint of both. That and, that conjunction is what we gotta watch out for. Make sure you pay attention to those. And then, of course, that last one, too. Let's underline what we're supposed to prove. We are supposed to prove that triangle PTS is congruent to triangle RQT. What that actually looks like, PTS, congruent to RTQ. There it is. Those two triangles are congruent. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to prove. Let's walk through the proof. Obviously, we start with the given. The ones we've been doing lately, they like to break up the given. The problem with doing that is you don't want to miss anything. So we're going to put all the givens together in one big list, kind of like they are given to you up there. Automatically in our given, we see something. We see a congruent thing right away. So on our picture, we can mark that PS is congruent to QR. When we do that, we have used up that given. We've shown one pair of sides congruent. Reason, of course, is because it was all told to us. If it's given, use it. Okay. Then it says T is the midpoint of PR. Let's just start with that circle, that piece of information. If T is the midpoint of PR, that means T divides PR into two congruent halves. The top half must be congruent to the bottom half. PT is congruent to TR. Because it's the midpoint, it cuts it exactly in half. The midpoint divides or cuts a segment into two congruent halves. That's what a midpoint does, is it divides it into two congruent halves. Okay? We've used the second piece of information to show a second pair of sides congruent. We've hit side, side, right? We could almost cross these off. We've hit side, we've hit side. Beautiful. We got one more to do. Fortunately, we have one more piece of information left in our given that we can use up. Okay, I'm going to scroll down a tiny bit here, although I went a little crazy. We still have to talk about T being the midpoint of SQ. T divides SQ exactly in half. Because T is the midpoint, we know that ST is congruent to TQ. Why? Because a midpoint divides a segment into two congruent halves. What we're using here is the actual definition of midpoint. That's really what we're doing, is the definition of the midpoint. Now we've used all three givens, and fortunately, I'm going to cover that up, we'll come back to it. We've shown all three sides. Side, side, side. Here's what we have here. We have side number 1, side pair 1, side pair 2, side pair 3. When we have done that, we have finished with side, side, side. We can now say that triangle PTS is congruent to triangle RTQ. Why? What's the reason? Why are they congruent? Because of side, side, side. Side, side, side gets used when you can show three sides of one triangle congruent to three sides of the other. How did we get to those sides? Let's go back and recap. We started off given 1. We were given one side automatically congruent here. PS and QR. That was given to us. Didn't have to do any thinking, just had to do some writing. Okay? The other two we took from the midpoint idea. Remember that idea of midpoint to get sides congruent? PT and TR from the midpoint. ST and TQ from the midpoint. Side, side, side. Once you've shown side, 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 your two triangles are congruent. The reason is because you used side, side, side. So it's the first way to prove two triangles congruent. A lot faster, a lot easier too.